Now the next thing is, let's look at it from different perspectives, right? I want to provide, since a lot of people talked about managing a team for an established entity, and some people wanted entrepreneur. I'm going to talk both. For an established business, what you need to look for, you are coming in and then you have a product line and you're making revenues, right? Now you need to make a new product, which means it is, call it a distraction or a detour from what you're currently doing, where you also need to be agile. So meaning quick wins, quick delivery. But also you have a lot of competition where some of these startups or other entities that are ahead of you are going to compete with you, or you are going to compete with them vigorously. You should be competing with them vigorously. And that competition is global. The way, the pace of how these innovations are happening in places like China, like Hong Kong, like Singapore, US, Silicon Valley, the pace is extremely fast and the world is changing. Give it 3 to 6 months, you might have 4 to 5 different players. And again, I'm not stretching it too much. That is how intense the competition is. And the next one is human capital. That is the last part. We're going to touch on that. If you are an established business, everybody wants the same talent. How would you attract them? How would you retain them? The key is retention. Okay, attracting and retaining, both of them are equally important. So, so think about that as well. And then more importantly, if you're an established business, you need to communicate. You need to make sure that your leadership is aware of it of an established business, but your investors, your current investors, are also good. So if you're an established business, these are some of the key things. Hire, look at the competition, be aware of the competition from these startups who are moving way fast. And then how do you build a new product? How do you actually, if you have a very stable ship going on, you're trying to create another new, more advanced product, you got to have a different mindset. So think about all that. Now, let's switch to a startup. If you want to be an entrepreneur, finding startup, the first thing, yes, you have to find investors. There is money, so you don't need to put your own money. There is definitely availability of capital, but you have to put a concerted effort on it. Attract and retain talent. Startups, they have their own challenges, right? People, whether we like it or not, there is stability aspect, right? So people are going to prefer, even if they don't get a lot of fun jobs, they're probably going to, some people are going to lean or rely on the established brands. It might take a long time, but that is the nature. However, with a startup, the key is the fun, the amount of work and the exposure you're going to get for an upcoming startup, or even if you want to put one, is that excitement, the energy, the ability to bring change to the world. Those are the key attributes for startup, and that's what talent is attracted to. So think about that as well. Business development. And once you have a plan, go execute it. Relentless execution. Focus. Once you do that, go focus, and then don't think of anything else. Do that 3.2 mile sprint, no matter who you are, whether you're an established business or startup, the same thing. 3.2 mile sprint, go, go, go. And then let's look at a different aspect. So now, how are we preparing? So this is where I want to pivot a little bit into how are the students being trained today? So you guys have seen how the industry is using it. We talked about how a business leader for a startup and entrepreneur is looking at it. We also looked at how the product is developed. Okay, so we have a pretty decent understanding of what's going on. But the most important thing, the people that are doing this, that are being prepared for this, how are they being trained? That is what I want to focus on this slide. We have engineering colleges that are training people on electrical, mechanical, which is one part of it, right? You saw the big circle that I showed you. Yeah, you can use the engineering skills in probably the drones, or maybe if you're a computer science, you're probably coming into either the data analysis or even possibly some part of AI. Then you have business school that kind of looks at a more broad business analysis, but you still need to understand other things. But here is the key. What I am trying to get out of this, what I want to point out to you guys is the vertical nature of how we are training the workforce. Different verticals. Okay, here is engineering, here is data analytics, here is business school, here is information. But at the end of the day, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to manage teams, or even if you want to be an employee, you need to be open towards what I call this. Okay, think about your brain in the center. Okay, the industry needs are, they want to do more, they want to take a piece of the pie, right? That's what we talked about. And then you got these lateral thinking jobs. What do I mean by lateral thinking? When you are an entrepreneur, what did you talk about? How do I get there? How do I develop a product? How do I how do I deliver the promise to my shareholders, which is I need to get the imagery, get the data, source the data, I call it, clean the data, right? Data processing, and then use AI or data science, and then iterate and then improve. So when you look at it like that, that requires a lateral thinking, I call it. It's not the vertical that you're trained in. It's okay. You can get your foot in the door, but very quickly I want you to think laterally. I want you to think about where are we going to do, what are we going to do, and where are we going to go? What is our destination, and how do I charter my path to that destination? Okay, charter your path, meaning your path is the same as your company's path. So that is a lateral thinking. And what are we getting from the industry, from the education industry? As I said, we are training people vertically, our students vertically. It's good to go into then start the companies, but very quickly you need to be pivoting or lean towards more broader initiatives and whatnot. So with all that said, so I see this as getting ready for the race to future. Okay, so what are the skill sets? This is multidisciplinary training. We saw how broad we should be trained, right? So get more broad on how you need to be trained, but also thinking. There are two aspects here, guys. Training, but keep that thinking process or thought process with you over time. Teamwork. A team is smarter than an individual, right? Okay, many of us are going to be much more smarter than one of us. That is the key. Then as the specialty gets more and more, I would call it exciting in terms of new opportunities, it is about the team that you need. Okay, be part of the team. Think of performing as a team as opposed to an individual. Okay, and then naturally when you bring a team, the performance is going to be a little lower than an individual, but the key is how can you make it better? Lifelong learning. This is the other thing. I mean, people in technology world have this, so I don't need to tell this to everybody. But if you are coming in with the notion of having a specific education, a specific training, and kind of set for the life, I'm not seeing it. That's not how the world is going to be, it looks like. Especially in the Geo AI, this is even more relevant. Okay, lifelong learning. Data science digital. No matter where you are, no matter which company you are, people need to be familiar with the data. People need to understand how to use the data and extract the intelligence from the data, and then be digitally savvy. And things are getting better. And I also would say the technology world is making it more and more easier for everybody to build these applications, specifically by going towards low code and no code options, meaning do not write a single piece of code. We will make these applications happen. That is the trend. That is where the world is going. So if you are afraid or if you're concerned about writing code and not very familiar with the programming, you're fine. Those days are gone when you have to write lines and lines and lines of code to make things happen. Okay, that's not 2020, by the way. So be aware of that. So be prepared to think big picture and understand what the digital aspect of it that you should be talking about. Business knowledge. This is another thing. Linear training, linear thinking will also not be able to look up and then look at things broadly. I would say you have to have the broad business knowledge. Finally, I would say this is the most important thing, if not one of the top. Storytelling. You need to be able to explain about yourself and understand what you are doing for the business and everybody around you. Okay, so communication. I mean, we talk about that, but I call it storytelling because it is like you explaining it to a fifth grader, right? Okay, so in the US at least, there is a show called Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? Again, what is the show? Are you smarter than a fifth grader? So why? At a fifth grade level, you actually have a more broader thinking. As you go up, either at fifth or seventh, that's not the point here. Point is, as you go up, you get more linear. So the point is, if you are explaining something like a story, then you would have much better chance of attracting investors, getting your right job, managing, convincing your team members, motivating others. If nothing else, have a fun journey, right? So storytelling is very, very important as well. So that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else after this. I think there is one more way that I would like you to go back to Slido. And this one is about, so let me open it. Open the Slido back up. So now that you have seen the whole thing, now that you understand the potential, what it takes, how do we need to think and how do we need to be prepared? The question now is, what are the areas you would like to get trained? We emphasized a lot on that cross-disciplinary thinking, cross-disciplinary training, lifelong learning and all that, right? So what are the areas you would like to get trained? That is the question. Nice. Nice. Analysis of geospatial data. That is a very interesting field to be in. And it's broadly applicable from Google Maps to SpaceX. Anybody will like it. End-to-end product development, nice. So a lot of people are interested in the analysis. So I see this or I read this as getting insights from the data. What is the data telling me? I think that's what people are very, very interested about. And there are a lot of even open source softwares that I'm sure Jayshankar will be able to go deeper on this. Yes, there is ESRI that makes things easier. That's one way to do that. The second way would be even QGIS, I think, if I'm not mistaken, where we can also use that. But then even the other thing I really like about this is end-to-end product development. I like that people want to look at it as a big picture. People want to understand what it takes. So maybe there are opportunities for a capstone project type of courses, right? Okay, here is an example. Go build a solution for a specific thing, right? Go build a specific solution for call it land monitoring or a field survey, or even an optimized pesticide application, I see a pretty good amount of interest for end-to-end product development. I like it. So again, it is a pleasure to see how people are thinking. I like the way how you guys are interacting. I like the way how the thought process is, and I hope you guys got a pretty broad understanding of what is happening in the geospatial AI and what the opportunities are. Oh, so with that said, I will give the floor back to Jay Shankar. Go ahead, Jay Shankar. Take over. Have any closing thoughts?
Thank you so much, Rajeev. And if you have any questions, we can take it now through the chat window.
Now, if not, what we can do, we can also send a link. We know who actually enrolled, right? We can send them. We can send them a link where they can reach out for further questions or queries. Okay.
Certainly, yeah, certainly.
All right. Anybody has any final thoughts or questions before we adjourn the meeting? My apologies. Here we ran a little bit over, and we lost about 5 minutes or so in the beginning. But it is a pleasure being here and sharing my thoughts and my views on geospatial AI. Thank you very much, everyone. You have a good weekend and have a great life ahead of you. Thanks. Bye.